Howard Hawks versus John Ford. I believe this was suggested by Scott. Could be wrong about that, but he did remind me to do it, so I'm pretty sure he suggested it. It's a wonderful suggestion. Let's compare. Let's see who's the best, John Ford or Howard Hawks. Now, if you follow this channel, you know that I love the film Red River by Howard Hawks. It challenges masculine normativity. It challenges manhood. It challenges the roles, the forms of all things manliness. It challenges them, with John Wayne being that old, more violent and impulsive archetype of man, and Montgomery Clift being this new hypersensitive, this new somewhat feminine and less violent version of manhood. And for the 40s, that's a very complicated issue to tackle, a very complicated theme to explore philosophically and poetically visually through your film. That would make you think that I would say that Howard Hawks easily defeats John Ford, who is primarily known for basically establishing the Western as an essential part of film grammar, of the alphabet of the cinema. But since John Ford is a bit sentimental, you might think that I would lean more towards Howard Hawks for making Red River a challenging film about heteronormativity in the Old West. But I'm not going to, because Red River is an outlier. Red River is an exception. It's not the expectation when it comes to a Howard Hawks film. The expectation of a Howard Hawks film is actually a kind of disingenuous purpose. Look at Rio Bravo. Rio Bravo is a direct response to High Noon. High Noon being something that John Wayne and Howard Hawks felt was deeply anti-American. So they made Rio Bravo, a film where an entire community comes together and they're just to fight against the bad guys. And High Noon, he can't find anyone because they're cowardly. It's commentary on the McCarthy era of witch hunts, and he couldn't find anyone to fight with him and has to fight by himself. Rio Bravo's a wonderfully put together film. You will not find a film by Howard Hawks that is not expertly crafted. But outside of Red River, you will not find a genuine one. You will find only disingenuous purposes behind these films. I love The Big Sleep. You will find a larger landscape, not a larger quantity of films. That is certainly John Ford's. John Ford was primarily focused on creating the Western as an essential part of the cinematic alphabet that we all pull from, that we all use to form our own visual sentences. Howard Hawks made westerns, he made noirs, he made romances, he made war films. He made a lot of different things, a lot of different wonderful moments to have and have not, a lot of wonderful films. And he's really a master of every genre that he tackled. But if we're going to, in this verses, imagine if we removed Howard Hawks. Yes, we would lose something. We would lose something substantive. We would lose something meaningful. But if we lost John Ford, we would lose the ability of speech. We would lose a large part of our visual grammar, a large part of our vocal vocabulary. We would lose a large part of what makes film. We would lose the fundamentals of filmmaking. Without John Ford, that would completely disable, impair film as we know it. If you take away his accomplishments, his milestones. If you take away Howard Hawks, sure, you'd miss something too, but you'd still be able to speak thanks to people like John Ford. I'm going to have to go with John Ford on this one. Films like Stagecoach, films like The Searchers, these are just remarkable films. Even The Quiet Man, not a Western, but still a fascinating character study, and giving the chance for John Wayne to truly act as well, which is something that John Ford definitely didn't think he could do. Orson Welles was asked, who are the three most influential American directors? And Orson Welles answered with John Ford, John Ford, and John Ford. And without Stagecoach, we certainly wouldn't have Citizen Kane, but also without Stagecoach and Jean Renoir's The Rules of the Game, we wouldn't have Citizen Kane. We wouldn't have a lot of different things if we didn't have those two films. But if we're looking at John Ford, we wouldn't have something that is so essential, so vital to what moves film as an art form, that it would be empty. I don't even know where we would be without the grammar, without the simplistic and, yes, sure, sentimental, grammar of John Ford, I don't know where we would be at all. I know where we would be without Howard Hawks. We would be okay. We would be missing a lot of great movies. That'd be about it. We wouldn't be missing such a large part of our alphabet. I love Howard Hawks, wonderful director, and these are both very like dictators when it comes to directing. Do I have to credit Howard Hawks with really discovering Lauren Bacall and really being the first one to harness the energy that was Bogey and Bacall into Have and Have Not. Like, do you know how to whistle, don't you? Like, oof, woo, that works on me. But John Ford, when I think Westerns, I have to think something of John Ford's. But when I also think of American mythology is built on the Old West. That is our mythology. That is where you will find our Greek gods. And John Ford is the one who really established them in the shared consciousness of America. He's really the one who established them as these archetypes, as these very powerful archetypes that you can't remove. I mean, imagine if they were. I can't even. John Ford is not merely important to cinema, not merely a significant figure in film history. He's one of the absolute most. He is the F in film. Ford. He is such a vital ingredient in cinephilia, in love of film, in just simply watching movies. For the pedestrian, for the layman, we understand films as well as we do, horizons within a frame as well as we do, because of what John Ford did with horizons, did with objects, did with his symmetry, did with his archetypes, did with his heroes, did with his icons. Because of John Ford. Howard Hawks? No. Phenomenal director. You would probably catch me watching a Howard Hawks film before a John Ford film, but that's beside the point. The point is, you might not catch me watching any film had it not been for John Ford, at least American film, had it not been for John Ford's contributions to the art. And if you credit him with this, it's hilarious. He hates... One of the reasons I haven't done a full-on analysis, or even just a full-on video about John Ford, is that, Hitchcock saying he doesn't like psychoanalysis of his films is one thing. He's a compulsive liar. When John Ford says he does not understand when people analyze his films because he thinks all analysis is over-analysis, he has a point. I do believe when he's making those movies, it's not an accidental genius. It is such a natural one that, yeah, you do lose the point of the picture if you analyze it. And you also defame the director. The director, John Ford, it's wonderful seeing interviews with him when the interviewer starts to get a bit lofty in his questioning. Because John Ford will just end the interview. Just go, cut! What the hell are you talking about? What? No! What? Like, it's incredible. I don't want to defame the legacy. I mean, eventually I will. Because there is a lot to talk about. And I just think it's natural. I just think that John Ford just knows exactly where to put a camera, exactly where to frame a horizon, exactly how to frame a hero, an archetype, an introduction, an appearance, a theme, and translate it through an entire film. I think he knows how to do that remarkably well. And I think it just comes so natural to him, and it's so obvious to him, that analysis seems to be more so about massaging an ego and missing the point of film. That the artistic qualities of film really come down to where you place the horizon in a frame. And that's the secret of Ford. Yeah, I'm actually going with John Ford this time, which might surprise some of you. Like I said, Red River is great, but every time, Red River is the exception. That is a challenging film, a very challenging film that is still challenging to this day. That is an exception. And it's not, it is not an ethos that carries over to any other of Howard Hawks' films. The other Howard Hawks films really does focus on heteronormativity, really does focus on really what's to be expected from a film of that era featuring grizzled men of that period. Whereas Red River is one that completely challenges all of those stereotypes, but once again, that's the exception. That's an outlier. That is not accurately representative of his greater catalog, which is rather disingenuous. Remarkably put together, but disingenuous. John Ford, it's put together naturally, almost, dare I say, organically. John Ford wins. Thank you guys for watching. In the comments, who would you pick? What is your favorite John Ford film, and what is your favorite Howard Hawks film? In the comments, what did you think of my critique here? Was I a bit off? Because I can definitely be a bit off. I've been off before. Let me know in the comments. Definitely like and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. If you've been lurking for the length of this video, trust me, you will enjoy the content to come. If I've held you for this long, you will certainly like what you see. Thank you very much for watching. Oh, have the best day of your life. Alright, Pilgrim?